He's a very well-known and popular black actor from Manchester, and he's done some amazing pieces both on television and off screen. And I'm also blessed to know him because his parents are very good friends with my aunt, who those who know me, she's like my mother, and they've been in the Rastafarian faith for a good over 40 years. So I'm quite blessed to know Marcus on different levels, and I, you know, we're almost like family, and we couldn't have got a better speaker to talk about his experience in the acting world. So I pass it over to you, Marcus.
Yeah. So basically, I've kind of grown up through the 12th tribe of Israel, and within growing up in the 12th tribe of Israel, it kind of gave me set certain foundations on my life, and kind of, I suppose, I remember something earlier that my mum would say, and she'd say that you need to be twice as good. I never really understood as such why she would say that, but it was something that was kind of drilled into us from an early age. So in our endeavors, I think things that we got into, we would always, you know, try our best. I don't think I really knew about racism or anything. I feel like the world kind of showed us about racism, because within growing up in a Rasta community, it was very much so where it was for everybody. Don't get me wrong, you did have some marginalized people sometimes who didn't like white people, or who had things to say about white people in a negative way, which, and I think was generally, I would put it down to their own persecutions or things that they'd gone through that made them then not see white people in a necessarily a positive eye. But within my growing up of the 12 tribes, I was always told, you know, everyone's equal, and that stuck with me throughout my life. Then I think I did study drama at school first. I was in my first play, and within that, you know, it was a story of somebody. It was a class play actually about somebody who had money and somebody who didn't have money. And I think, in a sense, for me, a lot of the color things sometimes it seems it's more about that, in the sense of it's about creating or keeping the divide between rich and poor. In going to college, I went to college to study, and within studying at college, I had different experiences wherein I would say I did feel a little bit of racial tension in little ways, but not like outwardly, but it was kind of like subliminal, I feel like. And then also, I feel like after that, I applied to go to Arden School of Theatre. There was a black man actually who was head of the course, and what he did, well, he never allowed me onto the course, which I always thought was interesting, but maybe I didn't look like your typical actor, and I think you were supposed to kind of maybe look and dress a particular way, which I didn't do, because I came from a place where we looked and dressed like how I dressed then, or like how the people around me dressed. So I think maybe there as well, automatically, maybe because of clothes and things you wear, and maybe I've never really, it's funny that I've never really asked him what it was, why he never accepted me. Maybe he just thought, you know, in this business you're going to get knocked back a few times, so better if it starts here and you get used to it, kind of thing, and know about that you've got to have that staying power to be able to do it. Within kind of going out, I was at university, only black guy in my class. So then I realized something, because I realized I wasn't the only black person who wanted to do drama, but I was the only black person there. And within that, the roles, they were not the best roles as such sometimes that I would get, because basically I would get roles given to me. Can you still hear me, guys?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. So I'd get roles that were, they were more about, they were just small roles. So I was Sweet Charity, so I got to play the part Sammy Davis Jr. Like a couple of pages, but everything was like, it felt a bit to me stereotypical. I wasn't given any fresh challenges in that moment to grow as such. It felt limited, and it also felt limited in a sense of, I suppose, how others can try and treat you, because maybe they come from the country, I don't know, Oxfordshire and Cambridgeshire and different places like that. They would just kind of, I don't know, it's like they seen black people as lower That's what it seemed like to me in certain instances, not much. Only when it became about like, I did a project once with these two girls, and it basically, they more or less set me up in the end to make it seem to the teacher that I'd not done the work, and they had done the work. And I think these things are just kind of making me aware, I suppose, of the greater, the greater problems that society faces. After that, I remember being at like a screening of a drama called Mobile. The casting director, I was sat down with her and with other actors, and she said something, I can't remember the exact remark, which was a racial slur, and she shouldn't really have been allowed to get away with it as such. But kind of, I don't know, for me, there didn't seem any point in kind of making a big issue of it and saying, oh, you know, pulling her up on it in a sense, in a way, because in a sense they are your employers, so you hear it, you see it, and you just know that people say all kind of crazy stuff sometimes, so you kind of go past it, don't you? I suppose, yeah. So, and I think sometimes as well, you don't want to, or I didn't want to think at that point, like seem like I'm the problem type of thing. You kind of just want to get ahead in what you can do, and you know people have different views anyway, and people don't always say what their views are. Sometimes they're things that, you know, would just happen in their own home. So that was a way that I felt that. I think in terms of the type of parts I've gone for, they tend to be like parts of around crime, also parts around maybe cheating, male. So generally that kind of felt like the roles I'd go for, or like bit parts or such. When I was doing the bit parts, I kind of lost my enthusiasm, because it was like there's nothing really to feature here in. There's only like a little. It's like it is a job, but it felt like, not that it was beneath me, but like I wanted more, and my idea and my dream of what I was doing was more than what I was being given. And within that, it kind of made me start to create my own shows. So then I wrote my own show at a pretty early age, actually. I feel like, well, in mid-20s, I started writing my own one-man show, and then writing of that show, I performed it at the Contact Theatre, and I got really good response. And I think following that, I decided I was gonna open my own production company. So I opened my production company, and then, which is called Hercules Productions. And basically following that, I started to develop and create my own work, and started to push forward with my own work. I realized, because I'd grown up as a Rasta, so some of the key fundamentals I'd grown up with as a Rasta were basically around like having your own things and your own independence. So that kind of made me create a vehicle for myself that even though I'd need people, I didn't need people as such. I could kind of make it happen myself. I wasn't reliant on anybody. And I think that's been probably the biggest part of my journey that makes it still even possible for me to do what I do now, is the fact that I took control of my journey very early on, created my own shows, which created its own revenue, set up my company, my company then set up its own revenue as well. That was coming in. We were able to employ other people who were coming from similar backgrounds. We were able to tell stories that we would like to tell in our own way. And it just kind of, I think it just put me in the proper position of where I was supposed to be, rather than being offered parts that I didn't deem worthy, or telling stories that I didn't deem worthy. So it became more than just, I suppose, an actor fulfilling roles, but then also like a producer, you know, a playwright, and directing as well, and just telling stories that I felt were important for society to hear, which was a good thing. I think following that, I've had my struggles within that, for me, I would feel like, I didn't realize this at the time, but it's like you'd be put on a cap. So because you're the only black company and people know that you're a black company, they kind of, I feel like it does work against you. I would like to say it doesn't, but I just know it does, because I feel like if I was white and I was doing what I was doing, I feel like I'd be further ahead in terms of the government organizations putting money into the company. I feel like they have a certain cap of money that we go for, and it's not given. And this could be because of race, or it could be because of all different type of things. It's probably, I wouldn't like to just say it's because of race as such, but Yeah, but my instincts tell me it's race. But I think I just want to kind of, I suppose for me, morally, it's good for me to kind of be open about it and just think I need to do more, which is kind of in a way what my mum told me at the beginning, you have to work twice as hard. So it kind of like, it kicks in another way. And I think that's how I more process it rather than a point of it being unjust or I'm being mistreated here because of this. It just means, no, I need to find another way. How else can I do this? My production company in doing, we've had different stages of development, which in, we had a stage where we wanted to develop a mainstream show, which in, for me, would have, you know, set the company in really good esteem. We were getting professional actors in. At the time, I had actors from Emmerdale, Coronation Street, and some from other soaps as well. Hollyoaks. So there was a few actors we had in there. There was named actors who came to the screening or to the show when we put it on at Contact Theatre. But when I tried to get to the next level with that show, they only gave me it's like they gave me £5,000 to create it the first time and then £5,000 the second time. And it just kind of, it just didn't work out. And with that, I just feel like that was a process. But at the time, the Contact Theatre has gone under new direction in terms of it had an American director in. His things were different, you know. He kind of did a lot of his own base shows, it felt like to me, realistically. But it was what it was. And then following that, I kind of was doing more project-based stuff with my company, still doing bits of television, maybe 2 or 3 jobs. I've had probably about maybe 15 to 16 television jobs. Never had like a long run in a television soap though. All of it's kind of just been like one-off jobs, which I suppose to myself proves I can do it and I'm worthy of it, but I've not actually had a longer stint in a soap or anything. Whether that's colour or not, I suppose parts are more difficult for blacks, so you could maybe equate it to that a little bit potentially, but acting's a tough profession as well in itself. So, you know, it's gonna be tough, I feel like, for anybody to kind of make it in this type of a business. But this is one instance now coming into this phase of it where I did a one-man show, which was called Prison Game. And within doing Prison Game, I applied for money 7 times for this money. This, I don't know, I feel like this makes me though more than breaks me. But for me, it was 7 times too many. And even if I had to apply, for a first one and got refused, I believe by the second or third time, we should have been able to get that money for that project. We ended up having to go in and have meetings with them. But what it did, it kind of made me stronger. I suppose this is just who I am as a person more so. And this is probably why you don't find a lot of black people or, you know, running production companies. There's not a lot of production companies like mine in the city because it's almost been made nearly impossible. So within that now, I applied 7 times, but each time I got refused, I would go somewhere and I would write the show, bits of the show, and I would put it on. And this is really interesting as well, because the same guy who refused me from drama school, he was the guy who I would ask, and he came in on board as a teacher for me to kind of take me through that process. And some of other great writers that I knew, they came in, they worked for free though. In a way, you know, I felt like as well. Like, I just know I should be paying them for what they were doing, but the situation I was in made it that I couldn't pay them, so I had to just kind of just continue, and we'd go to Chester, a place called Action Transport, and I developed the show there. Also, in the very first instance, as well as doing the show, I performed it actually at the Royal Exchange, and I think it's all about choices, though, isn't it? So I don't know whether you can say someone's been, if it's racial or not, but for me, the feedback, we had over 100 people in who came to see the show in the afternoon at the Royal Exchange, and they were all raving about the show. One of the patrons of the theatre was saying, oh, we need to get more stuff on like this here, we need to get a lot more stuff on like this. And when I went to the person who kind of handles the booking, basically there was not going to be any more support for me, but I'd kind of made the links and contacts myself. Everything I'd done myself anyway. They'd offered me space when I had asked them for space. They'd given me space, but then at that point they weren't prepared to back me on a joint application to the Arts Council, which potentially would have helped the show, and they weren't able to offer me any other support other than kind of, you know, you could read these books, you know, which obviously it's always good to read, but that was as far as they were prepared to go with it. So I continued for about another 1.5 years. processing with that. But since then, anyway, the point of that is that that show's ended up going to universities, it's ended up going to prisons, it's ended up going to youth offending services, it's ended up going to over like maybe 50, 60 different venues around the country. And I just feel like I had to work seven times I had to get refused to do that. And then it's like, and look at what it's done. So the proof of it, you know, the proof is always in the pudding, they say, innit? So the actual thing that was created was, well, it was far greater than I suppose they'd expected. And I don't know, it feels like to me there was, yeah, it wasn't handled with the respect it kind of deserved, you know, as a piece of work. And at least even to try and see if, you know, it was possible for it to have a life. But within that, for me, that just feels like, I suppose, part of the journey. It kind of makes the next bit of it sweeter. Like even lately, I was supposed to even be performing it today, funny enough, for Greater Manchester Police. They wanted to see it and book some workshops and stuff like that. So the show's still like literally still going, and still I was meant to go Edinburgh with the show this year as well. I won like a bursary to put it on in Edinburgh with home theatre. So yeah, I suppose what that's about. See, for me, I wouldn't. You could call it racism, but then for me, to some degree as well, it's like almost that's just what I had to do to get it to that stage. And I think somehow maybe that helps me, unless it's overt racism, which now people won't really have. I don't think like overt racism like that. They will just kind of, you know, not want an idea or know a particular angle to play things. And I think I do say as a black man that it does feel like young black people are kind of pushed aside. The opportunity is given to a point, but that feels like that based on what funding is available for that at that time. Once that funding's over, then there doesn't seem anything available for these young black, you know, whether it be actors or whether it be people who work in, you know, setting up a production company. There's not much available for them. And I think the cap is a big thing as well, like having the cap. And I feel like the cap is about, for me, it's like keeping you in your place, because for me, all the way through, it's like I always know that I can achieve anything. And that's probably through growing up as the 12th tribe as well. So you kind of have that message that's spoken to you very early on, like, you know, you're a king and queen, and basically your potential is infinite. There's so much you can do. So I didn't kind of grow up in the world of being kept in a place. I grew up in a place where we were capable of doing anything. We were looking to go home to Africa. And within the mantra of the 12th tribe of Israel, it says, Ethiopia awaits its creators. So in my eyes, we were always creators, which we all are. We were creators to go and to do a great work. And within that now, I suppose my journey has taken me to kind of do things with my company and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting with you know, the Black Lives Matter stuff and all the rest of it at the moment, because for me, I was saying a little bit to Malika as well beforehand, like for me, the struggle has always been there, and it's always been something that we've had to face. Or for me on my journey, definitely, I just feel like it's always been there, probably always will be there to some extreme in living in this country, and maybe in other countries, other things become factors. But I really believe it's about us, the people, kind of making those changes for society, if that makes sense. Because, and even though if I can't get money, I'm supposed to do a project, it's like almost now I'm at the stage where I don't want to be kept on a cap, or have a level that I can't go over this level, and another guy or another woman or somebody else, they decide that I can't do this or you can't do that. For me now, it's about kind of taking that power back for myself, so that if I'm able to produce my show, that I don't have to wait these 2-3 years to get it going, to then get to the next stage and get to the next stage and kind of work with one hand tied behind your back, because you're renting a space out from a center that you've got to pay them money to. Then you've got to pay, or not pay your director, but sometimes you might have to give them a little something for their time. So then making you in turn really weaker in a sense. It weakens you because you don't have, like, as a soldier, if you're going into battle, you need your A-class troops. But I felt like within that process, I did drain the resources that I had close to me, and everything became a struggle. And after a bit, I think people got tired of the struggle, and I've had many people come on board with my company, and the struggle is just too much for them because, you know, when people who have had different ideas, or even maybe a director who's helped me out, he's not realized the journey. And then there's also like a backbiting, like people who might not want your success as well within the Black community. So you might have other people within the Black community for whatever reasons who don't want your success, and they're gonna then try and pull you down because they don't want you to get to where they've got to, or for you to do what you want to do on a big level. So I really think, I suppose this is for anybody though, regardless of color, we have to like define our destiny, and we can't let our destiny be defined for us by anybody else. And we have to like really believe in our beliefs and things that we kind of take to heart, so that we know then that we're able to make a difference, you know. And as God people, I suppose people of God, like believing that there is a higher, you know, there's a higher power who is gonna make sure that, you know, if you're doing a just cause, that your work will be delivered in due season. So it's kind of I suppose faith, and not letting, I suppose, the laws or the ideas of men and women kind of get involved in things that really need to be done. Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. That was really good, and sort of, even though it's sort of slightly impromptu, I think you conveyed quite clearly, if you like, the Herculean struggle that you had to endure to actually get to the stage, and you know, sort of achieve the things you've managed to. And on one level, it's quite remarkable. And I think what you're pointing out is quite clearly that there are extra obstacles that you've had to overcome at various stages, from all sides and different perspectives. I'd like to throw it over now. We'd like to throw it over now for sort of some questions. I have several, but I'm going to hang on to mine for the moment, assuming that there are a few other questions. Does anyone wants to ask Marcus anything either about his one-man shows, or his TV work, some of the obstacles against sort of in terms of funding, or gaining acceptability and acceptance through different strands? Anyone want to sort of throw a question out? Yes, Colette, please.
Yes, I'd like to know something more about the work you do, please, Marcus. What are your shows about?
Yeah, so the work I do, I work with young people. So a great thing, and because it was done for me, I feel like, is to try and work with the youth and teach them skills. So we've done various type of projects with young people. We've done one called Each One Teach One, which was us going to elders in the Caribbean community and collecting stories from them. And we got the young people to go there to interview them. They had like oral history lessons and stuff like that. And then they also made we did like a documentary, and they got a chance to film them in the documentary and ask them questions in live interviews. We also had a chance to make a book as well from another project we did called Our Stories, and we got some pictures, portraits painted of some of the elders, and we had like a formal opening where we went in, and some of the elders actually acted in some of the plays that we did, which was fabulous. And they told their stories about, you know, things that happened to them when they arrived here in England and stuff, and just experiences of, you know, how they seen the place and what they felt, which was really informative. And even just the rules of a child of that time to rules of children in this time, you know, they're a lot different. So it was really nice for some of the young ones to hear the stories of elders and their experiences. I also have like my professional work, which is shows that I write. So Prison Game is a show I was referring to before, and that's basically gone on, like I was saying before, it's gone on to do mainstream theatres, supposed to be in Edinburgh this year, and that's kind of a show I want to take it internationally. I've recently started doing a bit more music as well. So I suppose this is in this time of lockdown, I kind of find that's a good way to kind of express myself, you know, in like a more contained kind of environment and stuff. So that's kind of, yeah, what I do to an extent. And because I've got the strong history in Rasta, I've done a few projects connected to Rastafarianism as well. So we did one called Rasta Roots, which was looking at Rasta's connection with Haile Selassie. And we managed to I pitched the idea actually to the BBC, and they came down from Inside Story and they actually filmed us. We did a performance at Dunham Massey a few years back now, and they had the Ethiopian flag flying as well over the house, which is what they used to do on Haile Selassie's birthday. The Earl Roger Grey, he would fly the flag on Selassie's birthday for many years until he passed away, and then they kind of started back that custom, like I think it was maybe 2013, 2014 when we did the performance there, and we had like some some letters that had come from the royal family. We had members of the royal family there, the Ethiopian royal family that is, and yeah, it was a really nice kind of like it was just a lovely day. And it was, for me, growing up as a Rasta as well, it was a great privilege for me to be a part of that, because it was like almost I'm representing my king, and yeah, so it was a great feeling for me.
Thank you.
No worries, thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. See, two more questions. One Tom's put in chat, and Fayette as well has a question. Tom, do you want to ask yours?
Thanks, Marcus. It was an excellent introduction, and I'd love to listen to you more. But my question was the questions as your struggles at college when you were the only black person in your class, and you said that was difficult. You faced obstacles, and I understand, I can relate to them. But do you think that was an experience solely of race or social class? Because many white working class students.
Go on, sorry.
Relate and how if you want to get up in the film business or the acting business, it pays to have connections. You know, you can look at Monty Python and lots of things like that which do well through that set. It is a struggle if you've got from a white working class background too. So I'm just asking, is it class?
Yeah.
Or is it class?
See, it feels like class, but then yeah, it's funny, you know, with the race thing, because I don't think I really accustomed things to race a lot. This is what I realized even from talking even today. It's like for me to say, oh, it's because I'm black, that's why this is not gone. But I think down sometimes, though, I do know it's like a deeper lining thing. I do realize that, oh, it is because of my color. It has had something to do with this situation. But it's not something I like to hold on to. For me, somehow as well, I feel like it makes you weaker. Like if I do that, for me, it makes me weaker. If I think, oh, you're not letting me do that because I'm black, it's like, no, that wasn't the way, that wasn't how I was made up as a person, to like allow my color to stop me from doing stuff. So that means then it's somebody else's idea that I'm then going to put onto myself. And for me, I don't think anybody else's idea should define who I am. So I have a conflict with that anyway, in terms of just my makeup of how I see things and how I go about things. And even some people potentially as well will want to, you know, argue things out. I think I will argue, like if somebody directly approaches me with racism or a particular thing, like I will deal with it. But I feel like we're all one as people, and people are just misguided and misunderstood, like not misunderstood, but misguided, and don't kind of know. Sometimes they don't really know themselves or understand themselves. So then if they don't understand themselves, why would why now would I then pay that much mind and kind of take that to heart because of this opportunity or potentially something I would want that then now I'm unable to get? But I think on obviously a wide range, it can affect people, because not everybody's going to be built the same, and some people, after they fail and they're rejected at certain things, then that's it. They will no longer try because they think they've understood what the problem is, and then they've got their, I suppose, negative reaction to that problem. Wherein I think just my upbringing as a RAF is just like is to overcome at all costs, and whatever you want to do, you know, you can do. Which is, for me, that's a human thing, isn't it? Even more so than a color thing. It's like if you see things like that, then that's what, you know, that's what will drive you, and that's what you will do. You will overcome.
Thanks. And thanks for the question, Tom. Fayette, do you want to ask yours, please?
Yeah, hi Marcus.
Hi.
Really interesting listening to you, and I really admire your attitude of not taking it on as racism, especially in media. I mean, I worked in media before, and I know that a lot of people get a lot of rejections always,
Yeah.
even for good projects. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult to see it. And one of the things you mentioned was that you don't think people are overtly racist these days, but I kind of beg to differ. I think people are getting more and more overtly racist. Just when I think of, for example, like the diversity thing on Britain's Got Talent, and there was like over 20,000 complaints. I've also seen like complaints against Live at the Apollo because they're, you know, hosting more and more Black people. Do you feel that people, I mean, I know you said you don't think it is as overtly racist, but do you not kind of see that there is a trend as some people are kind of trying to fight to bring Black performers into the mainstream, that there's a backlash and the racism becomes more overt?
I think people have opinions, like, so people have opinions on Black people, and sometimes they might be good, some might be good, and some might be bad. And I feel like people have opinions on most people, but what I suppose what they might do is, for me, is a mistake in a sense, is like, is the negative, I suppose, bringing a negative connotation on a group of people, because everybody is individual. So for me, I kind of feel like I see everybody as individual. I know there's people who don't like Black people, because that's quite clear in the world we live in. But this is kind of, I feel like things have got better. Like, I don't believe now is I believe there's never been a better time for me to be an actor than now, because Blacks are getting more work now than they ever did before. Like, even I remember X Factor, when it first started and stuff, or Pop Idol, I think they called it. And even in that program, they would say that your group was too urban, you know, so basically they meant too Black. Your group is too Black, you're singing too Black, you're sounding like you're from somebody from Motown, and it's just not what we want right now. But yet then years later, like say 10 years later, because I do believe as Black people are trendsetters. I believe Black people are trendsetters. So what we do today, it's like other people then end up doing it years later, even if they criticize us and all of the stuff, like a lot of criticism I'd see of Black people in school and stuff like that. You know, girls would probably get teased, you know, because of their bums, you know, in terms of just superficial stuff and the way people look. The lips a bit too big, the nose and things, and you find these things now are things that people now outwardly go and pay money for to kind of look like that. So, and I think this even stemmed back years ago when they first went to Africa, and even now, you know, the way they designed certain of their dresses and their clothes and stuff, it was kind of almost to mirror the Black person. So for me, I hear it. I know it's out there, but I don't know, as a Black people, what now we need to do, other than, for me personally, I just feel like if you're a great nation, then live in your greatness. We can't, like, I live here, and don't get me wrong, it's difficult, but I can't look for them to, the nation to make me what I need to be. I have to work within the culture of this community, but I also have to understand who I am, what my part is to play in it, and what I have within me. And I think for me, maybe this is just the thing that how I'm made up in order for me to get through my struggles that I'll have to face in life. And everyone's struggles are different, and everyone has a different role to play, because I'm a storyteller. So for me, my best place for me to be, like, some people might be best protesting in town, you know, with banners and stuff like that, whereas my best thing to be is probably I was on a stage somewhere, making people feel the impact of my performance, whether it be about touching about these issues and showing those injustice in other ways. So it's all like I realized that with the marching thing, because I didn't go on the march, but I realized the marchers have to march, the singers have to sing, the dancers have to dance, and it's like whatever it is that you do and how you stand in this struggle, then you have to do that and fulfill it, and not to be wavered. I think the thing is, no matter what's going on around, but not to be deterred and wavered by the outside actions of other people and what their misconceptions are, and to put them on you. And sometimes I feel they're just words in a sense sometimes. This is interesting to me because even my family, two of my cousins, they would speak like about white girls, you know, like in not good terms, I would say. Yeah, but what I noticed is, but both two guys ended up having children with white women. So like, even though they spoke in a particular way, they still went out and they did another action. They found love with this other person. So for me, I don't really know sometimes if people, when they say things, they really understand what they're saying, and if they're just saying what they're saying because everybody else is saying it and they don't really know what to think for themselves. And obviously, as big people, you'd like to think we'd know what to think, but I think it then comes into something even deeper than words. It's like the heart of a person. Because like, yeah, it becomes like down for me, it's like the heart of a person. What's this person really about, kind of thing. And I don't know if it's too passive for the time we're living at the moment, but it does feel to me that like most people, they don't really know. They're really just afraid. They're afraid of something. And when they say something about black people or this and that, sometimes they might think they're funny. And other times it's kind of like the fear of these people, the fear of black people. Do you know what I mean? And that's what wants them to keep black people in their place and to keep them beneath, so that they're not able to rise up. And I suppose for myself, I like in just knowing my history as well, knowing that, you know, there's great Africans and, you know, African countries out there with, you know, great liberties and stuff. And yeah, there's no reason or need for us to feel inferior. And it's just really the opinion of this person. But obviously there is an injustice going on, and it will be dealt with as it needs to be. Yeah, and I feel like everybody has a part to play in that. That was a long answer I gave you there.
Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah.
Worthwhile answer. Got quite sort of poignant and sort of deep in a couple of parts there. And I think touching on the sort of, you know, our story, our history, who we are, I think is a relevant point for all of us, and important to grapple with. There seem to be two other questions.
I think the key is as well, what I feel about it is, and I think I've said it a few times in what I've been saying, is we can't be defined by other people. We have to define ourselves. You know what I mean? We can't let another person define us or who we are. They can try and oppress, as they will try, but yeah, it's not in the nature of us as human beings, I believe, for us to surrender.
Yes. Well, there's an appreciation in the chat of using the expression live in your greatness, which I think is something we can all grasp. I hope it's a quick question from Jane, and then maybe a final question from Linda to wind up. Jane, do you want to ask yours, please?
I was gonna. I've just been absolutely fascinated by the way that you've talked about your faith and your life, and not being, and that being such a source of power for you. And I wondered if that if you could just say a little bit more, just a little bit more about what gives you hope.
I think people give me hope, because I know there's always good people out there, regardless of color or race. There's good people. So if, as a human nature and human beings, if we can all work together and strive for greater goods, then I believe we will be, you know, we will be victorious in whatever it is. And I feel like God has an idea and a bigger plan than us sometimes. So some things that we might want to do might not necessarily, like, for instance, I do acting, so it might not be God's plan for me though to be in Hollywood now making millions of pounds. For me, it might seem like a good idea because, you know, of all that, you know, comes with that. But realistically, maybe I'm meant to be here in Manchester doing acting classes with 15 to 20 people, you know, and then kind of creating new programs, teaching them about Black history and stuff like that. It's probably a far better use of my time at the moment. And also I'm developing skills. So skills in order for us to unpick things that need to be done. So I think the idea is, if we notice, for me, I suppose I realized there weren't enough stories that told my story. So I had to write the story. Then I had to I searched then, I suppose, for more stories of elders, and then we found out those stories. And then now I suppose we're having, you know, you hear like kick racism out of football, Black Lives Matter and all these different things. But for me, we've always been on this process anyway, about working kind of to bring the underclass's story to the light, do you know what I mean? And to kind of to work in our excellence to be able to deliver that on different levels. And I think that's now where I see myself and my company, in that we're able to kind of bring new platforms to some of these young people. And it's also about helping them to get to where maybe I thought I would have been 20 years ago. Like even for instance, my son, I've never been on the Royal Exchange main stage. My son went on there though. He's performed in a show there in Hamlet with Maxine Peake. You know, he was there for about 2.5 months, 3 months. So it's kind of, I think sometimes understanding it as well. And maybe it's not for me. Maybe it is for my son or my friend's son or somebody else who we know locally. You know, I think sometimes it's just by being there as a black person, you're getting your presence there. People, they know that you're there and they know who we are. I believe they know who you are. If you're in the arts, like, people know who I am. And you know, and then my time will come though. But then when I was thinking that, I was thinking though, for what? Because how do you then kind of judge success? How do you base success? Does a big mainstream job, does that give me success? You see, because I've done so many different things, I don't think it does. Because like for instance, doing the project at Dunamasi, the Haile Selassie project, for me, that's one of the proudest things I've done, and they broadcast it on television. So what more could I do that would be more than that for me, you know, in terms of my understanding of where I've come from? Then also working with young people. Some of my young people, they've gone on to be in television programs. You know, they've done three series on Class Dismissed and stuff like that. So I feel like the legacy is ongoing. It's ongoing, isn't it? Yeah. And we just have to kind of just be ready to play our part, whatever that might be, and make sure we're ready. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Marcus. Excellent. And Linda, you've asked 3 questions. Do you want to end with one of them? Hold on. Let me see. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Did I ask 3 questions? I thought it was just 2.
Yeah, whichever.
Right. Yes. Again, it's about faith. Here we have a wonderful counselor, Graham Campbell, who is a Rastafarian, and yes, his faith guides what he does as a politician and as a leader.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of, it's not so much backlash as refusal to accept, to take him seriously sometimes. And I'm just wondering, do you experience that as an artist, as an actor, for example, with backers and other artists? Do you experience, you know?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I have experienced it. More so, not with peers as such, more with people who might be in casting, or like, for instance, I ran an acting agency for a bit as well. And I could tell when I told one casting director I'd started an agency, she was just like, looked at me like, why are you doing that? Are you crazy, kind of thing? And like, I just shouldn't be doing that, because that's not my role in the business. I'm supposed to, I don't know if you were to look at it in a negative way, I'm supposed to play thugs and criminals type of thing. But I think it's a full journey in it, and it's not like where you are now as well. You've got to kind of, okay, if that's where you see me, but then I'll show you what I can do. I'll show you what I'm about, and I think that's what it needs to be. But there always is, yeah, that thing of where it's like you're almost stepping above your station. It's like now when I go for certain pots of money and stuff like that, it seems like it's too much money I'm going for. So basically, it's not too much money to do what I need to do, but it's too much money for them to give to me at this moment. For what? I just feel like it's a bit about keeping everything in its place. That's what I feel like, because the reasons they give you for the refusals, they're just not good enough. It just doesn't. I've been doing it too long now, and it doesn't make sense. I'd like to try and this is why even sometimes my team, I have to tell them, like, you know, don't worry about it, don't get disgruntled. They're making you second guess everything too much. Don't worry, this is just how it is. Yeah, because with the no, everyone always has a reason why they've said no, but you've got to understand sometimes, because I've been doing it long enough now, I understand like what a good application is. I understand a good reason, I believe, for a rejection. You know, and within that we'll try and, you know, build on it. But when we've done one project and you've funded one project, but then we go for a bit more money and you won't fund the other project, but then when we ask for the smaller money, you'll fund it. It's like we just know that we're just being kept in a certain place, and maybe there's a process of how we're going to be entrusted with money along the journey. But yeah, it shows that we're able to handle more money than that anyway. But I suppose that's something that I suppose I'm dealing with now, in a sense of that I just feel like I have to set my own levels of things. So I have to bring in my own money through things that the company does in order to make sure that I can do the things I want to do, so that I'm not constantly like, it feels like I'm begging almost, you know, because really I'm here to serve the community. But as I'm actively serving the community, I'm put in a position where I have to keep asking and asking and asking. And for me, sometimes it's like, just, yeah, it shouldn't be like that, I don't think. But yeah, but it makes you stronger. I always like to finish on a positive, you see. It makes you stronger. So yeah, it makes you stronger. So yeah, you just got to keep on going.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. I think you've highlighted the complexities and sometimes how difficult it is to actually unpick what's relating to what, whether it is the class, the background, the story, whether it's race, whether it's sort of color of skin, being black, right? Yeah, the various complexities that there are within that. And yet, I think a lot of what you said indicates that there is institutional racism in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, in a lot of places, most definitely, yeah.
And yeah, just some of the things. I feel we've actually been getting deeper and deeper as we've been going through. We could probably do with another however long, but we won't, because we're going to try and stick to time-ish. It's a Jewish 7 o'clock, so we're all right. But
I'd end with we've got, because it's Black History Month, we'd just like to end with a prayer that says thank you.
Bless, thank you.
Thank you, Creator, for those who've brought light to the world with their kindness and courage. Help us never to forget the past and those who've worked to make the lives of others better. Give us the strength that many Black people have had as they strive to make a difference in the world. Help us to keep their memory alive and to use the stories from the past to help us make good choices in the present. Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Amen. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Marcus. That's been
especially thank you to Marcus for spending the last hour with us, or almost hour. We're really grateful. Yes, there are various rounds of applause there being sort of given, and thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't know all of Marcus's work, he's been in a whole variety of different things. I think you're one of my mother's favourites in Casualty, not quite along with Charlie, but yeah, almost.
I was there.
Other things, but it's also, as you say, it's the work you've done with the young people through your company that is so important and valuable. May you go from strength to strength with that work, and thank you for being here in Manchester. We all hope to sort of continue struggling with this, hopefully moving towards the ideals that we all want as a result. So thank you.
And I think, I think a big part of it is as well, we just got to walk in our excellence. So all of us have, you know what I mean, unique potential. So we just got to keep walking in our excellence, and then that way we'll do, you know, the things that we're supposed to do, and and strengthen who we're meant to strengthen.
Thank you. So from walking to excellence, next week we might be running, jumping, and doing other things with sport. Black experience in sport with Director Maynard, and then more work after that, leading to the conference on the 16th of November. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good week.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.